Welcome back to the Dinero Twins podcast. Where we talk about all things business and money. I know we missed last week. COVID tried to take me out, but I'm back. We're back and we're better. And I'm super excited for today's podcast because we definitely have an amazing speaker. And I'm going to let my twin talk a little bit more about that. Hey, twin.
Hi, twin. Yes, everyone. Welcome. 2022 is time to get this bag. And today we have a very special guest who's all about getting the bag. And
yes.
We have Fox, original credit, real estate, ballers, expert, entrepreneur all around, a great guy. We really wanted to have him on today. What's up, Fox? Welcome.
What's happening?
Welcome.
Good morning and thank you. Thank you for having me on the platform. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. We know that you are the guy to talk about franchise. And I know that franchise is one of those things that a lot of people are trying to get more information on and they just don't know where to go. So we're like, you know what? Fox is our guy. We're going to have him on, ask him a couple of questions, make sure that he shares with us, his expertise and how he can help people, get through that, navigate that whole industry. So we're very happy to have you, man. Seriously.
All right. Good stuff.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to get started with the first question.
Let's go.
All right.
I'm ready.
Let's go. So explain to us what the franchise model means. What is a franchise exactly?
Okay. So a franchise is a relationship between the franchisor and the franchisee, right? So you have two parties interested in selling the product. Franchisor is selling his name, selling proprietary operating systems, and selling the product. The franchisee wants to sell products associated with that brand name, and it's for a fee. So you have a viable relationship there, right? So the franchisor owns the rights to the name, owns the rights to the trademark, right? Mm-hmm. The franchisee will pay in order to use those. So generally speaking, though, because being a franchisee is very prestigious based on the name, right? So like if you're like in your 30s and you say, well, I own 3 McDonald's, it's like, holy shit, how you own 3 McDonald's, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're really a brand manager. You're taking a brand that is known in the world and you're saying, I'm going to run it according to your corporate standards. So although it is very entrepreneurial to own a franchise, you can't really spread your wings. You got to fit in that box and you got to be comfortable in that box. But if that works for you, it's extremely profitable.
Great explanation. Yeah. I think a lot of people understand that, a franchise is kind of like the stepping stone into entrepreneurship with having the guidance of an established system. Right. But like you said, it's very, you got to understand that you got to be kept within that box, within that, what it is that the franchise represents, and you can't really kind of deviate out of that. So it's one of the cons, right? But again, yeah. So Lisa, any questions?
Yes. Which kind of leads to my next question, because I know first off, the franchise business model is completely genius because it allows people with little to no experience in business, giving them a stepping stone into the industry, So, but I'm pretty sure that as with everything, you have your pros and your cons, right? So what would be the pros and the cons of franchising?
We're gonna get right into that. But let me say something, because when I talk, I like to really give people like, holy shit, you just said the franchise model is genius, right? So I'm a student of history, right? And I take the best of what I can out of history, because we didn't write it, right? History is his story, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at history, Ben Franklin was a genius, right? He had thousands of patents. He invented literally half the things we use today, including glasses, all type of shit. So Ben Franklin was the first franchisor. He franchised his printing model. And I took a note here, 1731 in Charleston, South Carolina. He was the first one to use the franchise business model, which to me is fascinating. And then 100 years later, Isaac M. Singer used the franchise model to sell sewing machines. He would set up every store as a partner. So that's the inception of franchises. So to answer your question, the pros and cons. So some of the pros to owning a franchise you mentioned, but I'll run through a few. And that's you have a ready-made business model, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you're coming out of corporate America, which a lot of franchisees do, because I don't bite my tongue, the franchise business model is expensive. But I'll talk about some ways to get some money. So a lot of people from corporate America transition, and they're used to running operational systems, not necessarily used to being the owner, right? So it works for them. It's much easier to secure financing with a franchise, right? Because there are banks who lend to specific business models that they like, such as Subway, Church's Chicken, Checkers, Wingstop. They have what's called preferred lenders. They understand the business model. Also, there's less risk involved. You have a proven business model with franchises, right? Also, it's much easier to do due diligence, right? If you're going to open a pizzeria in the neighborhood, independent pizzeria, who can you talk to? You're going to go to a competitor across the street, say, hey, let me know. No. But with a franchise, other franchisees are technically like your family. So you say, hey, I'm looking to open this location. Tell me what you can about this model. How is it working with corporate? What kind of numbers do you do? So those are some of the pros. Now, some of the cons is high startup costs, right? To really capture a franchise where the name is so big that you're going to open the door and people are going to come in, which is what you want, it is costly, right? You have less flexibility, which I just addressed with Rosalind. Whereas if you want to spread your wings, you want to add products, you want to improve on, let's say, the customer service model, the way people are greeted, the way they're served, you really don't have that flexibility. So you want to get with a franchise that you enjoy, you like their products, you like going there with your family, and you're not looking to change much. Also, franchise fees is a con. When you're an independent pizzeria, you make $1,000 in a day, that's your $1,000. Right. The franchise fee, to be really, really honest, the franchise fee is basically like the mob. So if you didn't make no money that week, they don't care. They need their money. And that goes from 6% to the smaller franchises all the way up to 22% for the big names.
Wow.
But to explain to the people, to give them full transparency here, when you have a franchise that's charging you like 6%, they're usually like a smaller one, right? And I only speak from my personal experience when I give this kind of information. So like I was in the pretzel business, right? So in the malls, you see Auntie Anne's pretzels.
I
that
love
kind of
Auntie Anne's pretzels.
I'm trying to tell you, I never made money like that in my life. The pretzel with labor cost me about 13 cents to make in my era, and we were selling it almost $4, right? Auntie Anne's didn't have to do a whole lot of advertising. They don't have commercials, right? So if they charge 6 to 8%, it was cool. That's just because I'm using the name, proprietary ingredients. I'm ordering from one vendor, made my life easy. Someone huge like McDonald's, right? The biggest in the game that might charge 18 to 22%. You got to remember, they're putting national commercials out. So they come out with a new product. They come out with a new sauce, right? Your restaurant's going to be flooded because a rapper has a sauce. They did the Travis Scott burger not long ago. You get the benefits of that kind of franchise fee. So it's important for people to know you're not being taken advantage of. You know what I mean? You're being charged for a legitimate service. So franchise fees can be a con, right? Because they're due no matter what. Also, one of the cons to franchise is that you're not solely in charge of the destiny of your business. For example, you own a hamburger chain, right? And we get another mad cow disease scare. That's it. You can't say, okay, we're selling chicken, don't worry about it. No, you got to deal with the repercussions of the negative headlines regarding beef. So just an example of some of the cons.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for breaking that down, because it's good for people to know what to expect going into something, especially from someone from you that has the experience. How many franchises do you own, Fox?
Right now, I'm out of the franchise game, but I'm re-entering. I sold because, divorce, you know how that go. But in my, when I was active, 18 at one time, I had 18 franchises. And I'm going to tell y'all this. owning a franchise, once you do the first one, right? Once you get the first one out of your system, you already know how it goes. It's the employees that will kill you. So you really have to be a leader, a motivator. You have to be a people person to a certain extent, and you have to be able to maintain your sanity. And this is just, you know how I do, I keep it real. You're basically dealing with entry level employees all day, and they become your life. And that's a hard balance.
Yeah.
Because you're listening to, you know what I mean? Noise. You're listening to things that in your world are irrelevant, but you have to pretend to be interested, and you have to balance all that, and you can't be offensive or condescending to people, motivating them at the same time while they're literally draining the life out of you.
Wow.
Literally. So that's the balance of being what they call a multi-unit franchise owner. And only certain people can get to multi-unit because it's based on your performance of the one store. You see, so it goes back to that old adage, right? You never get more till you master what you have.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, Fox. So I know that a lot of the companies, probably all of them, right? They for the most part have a system where they want to lock in franchise owners to more than just one unit, based on, you know, because it helps the growth, right? Expansion. So is that common nowadays? Like, do they still look for that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because I wanted to touch on that when I got into you know, Latinos in the space.
Okay.
There's a lot of franchises that only want multis, right? But what that is they're pruning out the little guy. It's not so much, hey, we really want to grow our brand. It's, hey, we don't want to deal with the onesie twosies that are waiting on financing. So like Dunkin' Donuts, for example, Dunkin' wants to see like 15 million liquid. And I would always say, like, if I have 15 million liquid, I could lock that up and I ain't got to work. Even at 10%, it's 1.5 a year. What I'm serving coffee for, right? Another thing is that someone like McDonald's wants to currently see $1 million liquid to get in. Now, not to discourage anybody, because there's ways around that. Also, if you really dedicate it, and hopefully we get a chance to talk about Chick-fil-A, if you really dedicate it, you can work your way up in McDonald's through the ranks. So you can literally start as a janitor in McDonald's, right? Work your way up to manager, start having conversations, work into general management and what they call regional when you're checking on stores, all while constant communication with corporate, like, hey, I want to be a franchisee. And they will help you, especially if you're a minority, and we know how that goes. It's a two-way street. It helps their PR, right? But it also helps us get in position. So there are ways to do it, but back to your question, multi is more about pruning people out who need financing, etc., than it is about brand expansion.
Very interesting. Yeah. So I didn't even realize that some of them offer that opportunity. Like, and I could see how that could make sense, because someone that's on the ground knows exactly how to run one, right? So if they can come up with, you know, the funding and the partners and the investors, it will make sense to just literally put them in a place to purchase one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's also an interesting concept. But one of the things that I love your franchise talk, by the way. I've seen all the series on Instagram, literally less than 10 minutes. And you talk about, you know, history about a specific franchise, which it leads on to my next question. I heard you mentioning something about the 10K franchise business model. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the 10K, right, generally speaking, is bullshit, right? It's kind of like no money down real estate, right? Like, it exists, but we know we need money somewhere, right? You might get away with a few closings where you literally did it with nothing, even the lawyer's fees covered, but chances are it's not going to happen. So if people are looking for like a good franchise that's 10,000 and under, I say that's like snake oil, right? Because the whole reason of getting into franchising is to use a big name. You want a name that's known so you generate business right away. If you're struggling to generate business while paying a franchisor, you're serving two masters. You're trying to get your business off the ground and keep them happy, but they're actually offering nothing. Now, to the people who haven't seen my franchise series, the 10K that I was referring to is opportunities, right? So this is a perfect segue into Chick-fil-A. So Steak and Shake and Chick-fil-A currently have a business model where they take people who are hardworking, willing to work the store. They will charge them $10,000, which is basically like a ritual payment. It's not ritual, but it's symbolic because they don't need the money. They're going to put up the store. They're going to pay for everything, but you're obligated to manage the store. So this is an amazing way to put your foot in the franchise game. Now, Chick-fil-A, that's the number one question I get, right? They have amazing customer service, right? Every time I call customer service, I say, God damn, y'all gave me that Chick-fil-A today. And they die laughing because everyone's familiar with, yo, I do get good service when I go there, right? They have amazing customer service. They're efficient and they make more money than any other franchise in the country, including McDonald's.
Wow. And that's
Average
them not being
store.
open on Sundays.
Right. So on a 6-day week, they're making more money than a 7-day, 24-hour franchise. The average store is doing almost 5 million.
Wow.
Average McDonald's does 2.9 million, right?
Crazy.
Crazy. But when you think about it, they're earning it.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
give you as many sauces as you want, right? Now, again, it sounds funny, but we're talking about customer service.
Right.
If you go to McDonald's, you say, yo, let me get 10 barbecues. And they're like, okay, it's $250.
Right.
Where Chick-fil-A is like, you want 20? Only 10?
Right.
It's a different attitude. It makes the customer feel better. So I said all that to say Chick-fil-A is number one, and they don't sell franchises any other way. They too have the $10,000 model. So you fill out an application. If you're chosen, it's $10,000. And instead of you paying Chick-fil-A a royalty, it's reversed. You actually get 5% of sales as your salary. So a Chick-fil-A manager can make, a brand manager can make $300,000 to $500,000 a year.
Wow.
But they generally do not want you to grow. Even though if you look at social media, you will see young minorities with 2 or 3 Chick-fil-A's. That's a special situation. They generally want you in that store. You run it. You dedicate X amount of hours per week, and that's it. But here's what I want to tell people, because I'm very, I like to motivate and inspire people, but at the same time, I don't blow smoke. Chick-fil-A opens about 800 stores per year, and they get upwards of 60,000 applications for franchising.
Wow.
So again, back to my story about McDonald's. If you're serious about Chick-fil-A, like it's a burning desire to own it, my suggestion is get a job, work your way up, and you get priority franchisee, because they see this person's working. They came in saying, hey, I want to be an owner. They did the work, and we want to help them get that opportunity. And believe me, it will pay off, because you shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you amongst the stars. So you might manage 10 stores and still be making $200,000-300,000,
Right.
So yeah.
So it's putting in that
On
that
the
sweat
$10,000
equity.
franchise, that's my take.
Yeah, that's putting in the time equity, right? The sweat
Yeah,
equity.
the sweat
to get
equity,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's powerful. Talk to us a little bit about any stats that you might have on minority groups, because we want
Yeah.
to make sure that our people
Of course.
understands what's going on out there in this world when it comes to us and franchise ownership. What are some of the brands that you think are up there for us?
I'm going to talk about the brands that I like, and again, I'll give a little more fruit. I'm going to give some things to watch out for, and this you'll only get from a veteran, because my problem with social media is it's all candy ass.
Yeah.
Everything is presented with a bow on it, like it's easy. Oh my God, get into trucking. Yeah, try to get a truck on the road with the DOT. But anyway,
and drivers.
You know what I'm saying? Please. Minorities. So 70% of all franchises are white, 15% Latino, 6.1 Asian, and 6% African American or Black, right? Because not every Black person is African American. You know how them stats go. So we are represented in the space and we are respected, right? The respect, of course, is not reciprocal. It's kind of a mess. Corporate America takes advantage of the Latino dollar. So I keep it real all the time, right? So there is a marriage there. It's a real marriage. They have an interest in our communities because we spend money. We spend money a little different than the African American community, right? There's different loyalties because of the language, right? So they see the value of our dollar and they do put their money where their mouth is. So we're representing 15% of the space. McDonald's claims they made more Latino millionaires than any other franchisee. I've done the research on that. I believe them. I believe them. There are Latinos in this space with a lot of money that we do not hear about. There are Latinos that buy regions, right? So let's say Detroit, Illinois, Wisconsin, they'll buy the region. Now they become a sub-franchisor because they're finding franchisees to run the space. They're running it, but they're the ones who have the relationship with McDonald's. It's called the master agreement. So there are Latinos out there, big money, you know what I mean, tens of millions, looking for other Latinos to put them in position. So there's a lot going on that, again, if you're not in the business and reading the trade magazines and understanding, you don't know. Now, I want to talk right before I get into the franchises I like. I want to talk about Checkers. The CEO of Checkers a few years back was a Cuban guy, right? I'm not sure if he's still in the space, but it was inspiring to me. Cuban guy from Miami. And what he brought to Checkers was he's like, look, we got to make these restaurants cheaper because there's a lot of
Here is your reminder.
Sorry.
Take my medicine.
Alexa, stop. Sorry about that. That's my reminder. If she don't go off, I don't know nothing. So this Cuban guy said, look, Checkers has to be cheaper to get into because there's a lot of competition in the hamburger space. We got to give our people an edge. So what he started doing is prefabbing the build out of Checkers locations. It will be built in the factory, just dropped on site, and he saved hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And again, that's Latino innovation. We are innovators, man. You know what I'm saying? And my Dominican sisters, you know what I mean? Y'all know the vibe. You know what I mean? Duct tape and a flashlight. We fixing cars, leaks, roofs, for real.
Yeah, that's right. We MacGyver it all day.
Listen, very, very innovative Latino people. We really are. But anyway, I love to joke around like that because I love Dominicans because my God, you know what I'm saying?
We fly. We know we fly.
Yeah.
Listen, a lot of cars, a lot of things got fixed real cheap when you needed it, you know what I'm saying? But fast forwarding out of that, so we are represented in the space, but unfortunately the media doesn't shine light on us. That's real.
Wow.
I would like to also add something to that because we are one of the biggest consumers in the world. So why not just navigate a way where we can show other Latinos how they can better spend their money, right? Because that's what it all comes down to, is the misuse of your money. And if we can show them like, hey, this is possible for you too, because I know when you walk into a franchise, my first thought is, wow, how are they operating this? What's the back end, right? I start to think about these different business thoughts, but I know a lot of people may think, okay, well, this is not achievable, but we need to show them that it is. And I love that we're having this conversation because it's showing people the back end stuff and how they can also do it too.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Exactly. I think it's just a lack of information. You know, that's what we're here for. It's just sharing that it is possible. Of course, there's a whole other side with the financials. Fox, give us a little bit about that. So in terms of like financing, I know it's in levels, right? There's franchises that are smaller, bigger, but talk to us about like a smaller franchise under 50K. What would the financing model look like for something like that? You know, would it have to be all out of pocket? Can you use investors, banks? How does that work?
Okay. All right. So let's break that down. you can always use investors, right? As long as you got the money in the account, they don't care.
Mhm.
A $50,000 franchise model, if you actually don't have any money, you're probably not going to get financing because the name is not big enough, right? If you got some money, of course they lend you money, but they're going to collateralize it. You know, another narrative, you know, the banks only lend to people who don't need it. That's true, but they collateralize your money, which means they lock it up. So it's not like, oh, if you got money, everything is a go. That's simply not true, right?
Mm.
So the $50,000 model, if you believe in it, right? If you believe in it, then my suggestion would be borrow,
Okay.
credit cards, do what you can. Keep it local, keep it family, if you believe in it.
Mhm.
If you're just taking a chance at Weepy, don't play with your money and other people's money. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to get burned and then you're going to look crazy to your family and everybody. And then anytime you have an idea in the future, they're going to shoot you down.
Right.
Like, you remember what happened over here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but let's go a step above. And this is some information I want to give to the people. Franchises don't want to talk to you until they loosely qualify you. So you go to any website, you click on franchise, it'll give you some specifics, right? If you like more information, here. So you put in your name, your address, your email. Back in the day, you would automatically receive the UCC, which is basically a financial booklet about this stick that lets you know everything from the franchise, right? Lets you know if they've been sued, if they're in trouble, how much money they make on a collective, how much royalties they're taking in, any complaints from franchisees, from consumers. It's like this stick, like a phone book, old school phone book. Nowadays, when you fill out the information, not only do they ask you financial questions, like how much money you got, like that ass, like what do you got? They also do a soft pull of your credit, and they don't need your social security number to soft pull. They just need your name and address. And if you go to the next step, they send you that large book I mentioned via PDF automatically, which no one reads it because it would take you 2 years, but it's mandatory, right? So what I'm saying to people is, what I'm telling you is when they ask financials, treat those questions as if they're stated. Because if a franchisee wants to see $750,000 liquid, I mean, really, how many people have that? You might have access to it, right? Friends, family, equity in your house, but no one has it sitting in a checking account. Mm-hmm. So whatever the credentials are, right? The minimums, just put that. So you could get to the next steps. You could have a conversation with an executive, and that executive will tell you, okay, these are our preferred lenders. This is where you're going to get the money from, but we really would like to see this, and then make it happen. Because that's the other thing, right? As entrepreneurs, right? As people who want business, want a better life, we got to make shit happen. It's not just going to happen for you. Correct. Right? Franchisees take on about 20 to 30% of the work. The franchisor already did 70% of the work when they built their brand. But in that 30% that we got to do, it includes hustle. You got to find that money somewhere. And if it's really what you want, you're going to find it. You're going to find it. There's ways. And I don't want to discourage anybody, because believe me, the first franchise I opened, I probably had like 100,000 to my name. And I told them I had 2 million. That's just what I had to do.
Right.
Because they were looking for 700 plus for the build out.
Right.
Now I knew where I could get the money. Mm-hmm. Right. I was certain I could get the money. And there's a difference between waiting on a bank and being certain. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was certain I could get the money, and I took the chance. Once I got in, right? Because I want to share this with people for inspiration. Once I got in the door and I made friends with executives because they liked my swag, they would tell me, they were like, bro, you think your shit was bad? We asked people for proof of funds. They'd send us pictures of their safe with all cash in it.
Oh, wow.
For real. They said we have foreigners that come from India that show us money in paper bags in the house. They just cash. Yeah, all cash. So again, then I didn't feel so bad, because that has a lot to it too. When you're going in, where are they putting you on the totem pole? Am I low priority? Am I exactly what they're looking for? Are they making an exception for me? Where do I fall? So once you get that information, now you got a little more confidence. There's a little more pride in your swag. I'm gonna tell you something else. When I first opened my first Subway, and they were telling me that, at the time, and this is what I mean about corporate America. Corporate America is a flip-flopper. They use us, and that bothers me at times. They told me none of my employees could have tattoos. I opened my first Subway in 2009. So I said to them, yeah, that sounds good and all that. What about me? They were like, oh, if you're going to be in the front of the store, you got to cover all that. And I wasn't even tatted like this in 09. I was like, yeah, that's never going to happen in a million. I'm not going to hide from my own shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And now tattoos are actually preferred.
Wow.
If you look at the branding, look at the big names like Starbucks and whatever. When you see branding posters, Starbucks doesn't do commercials, but when you look, everyone has a visible tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I'm saying about corporate America. It's a give and take. It's a love-hate relationship, but
Yeah.
it's a necessary evil because corporations are bigger than government. So they're just part of our life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's super important is the hustle's got to be there. I say it all the time. It's like, if you don't put in the work, you're not going to see the results. It's not just picking up a book and reading it. It's not just, watching videos, taking a class. You got to put in the work. You got to hustle. That's it. That's the key.
Definitely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Wow. I mean, this was definitely a powerful conversation. And one of the things that I want to just ask you, and I guess we're going to wrap it up here. Name 2 franchises that have the best earning and growth potential in the industry.
No doubt. And I'm glad you brought that up because it's like a segue to the Cuban guy who was the CEO. And I don't want to say he's currently, because I haven't checked in a while, in reference to Checkers, right? So let me tell you what I like. The culture, right? The culture that I'm at war with also, right? The culture in this country is definitely controlled by hip hop and urban imagery, right? So I love Wingstop because of their affiliation with Rick Ross, right? Mm-hmm. Rick Ross has made the term lemon pepper a household name. Like you say lemon pepper, you thinking Rick Ross, you thinking chicken wings, you thinking Wingstop. Yes. He did that. That's amazing that a rapper could coin a flavor and make it a whole phrase. So I'm saying, if you got some bread, I would ride that wave. I personally have talked to Wingstop about doing locations. The woman who signed Rick Ross' deal was actually my executive. She told me everything about his deal, which I'm going to actually share because, I like to bear that fruit, right? So she told me the reason they love Rick Ross was because of his business model. They said they stay away from rock stars and athletes because when they first popped, they got Troy Aikman, who was a Dallas Cowboy quarterback, to do a bunch of stores. And what he thought was, hey, I got a big name. Y'all just give me the stores. They run on their own. I collect the money. All his stores failed. So they said, we don't like to work with celebrities who ain't going to work it. They said Rick Ross brought on his mother and his sisters and formed a management company around these stores, and they get busy and they work the stores. So I'm like, well, how many does he have? At the time of the conversation, he had over 50. So I'm like, how do the family run the 50 stores? They were like, yo, they just the branches, cousin, the kids of the cousin, all the way. So they say Rick Ross is actually involved. We love him. And then Rick Ross transitioned into Checkers, which again, the CEO, the Cuban guy, was from Miami. It was a natural marriage. He doesn't talk about Checkers as much as Wingstop. Not really sure why. But my point is Wingstop is tremendous. The name, the momentum, it's associated with a rapper who's still hot. Now, I do want to say this, and I'll get into the other one. This is very important. When you get into a franchise, it's exciting. It's a million things on your mind. You're nervous. You ain't thinking about this because you think they have this part covered. But this is one of the reasons I did not move forward with Wingstop, me, at my level of the game. It's not to discourage anyone. It's a terrific franchise to get into. But buying futures in commodities. The chicken wing used to be the part of the chicken that was thrown in the trash by butchers. No one wanted it. They would give it away. With the invention of the buffalo wing, it slowly became the number one portion of the chicken. If you're not buying futures, your company, futures is you say, we're going to take 1 million pounds of chicken a month at $1 a pound, and we'll give you X amount to buy that price. That's what futures is. If you don't do that, that means the price is constantly fluctuating, just like an adjustable rate mortgage. So you can't control your costs. So you have to look into that. Some franchises are very smart, like Subway did to me. This is why I sold my stores, where they're buying futures, but they're not passing that savings on to the franchisee. So they continue to buy at $1 a pound, but they're charging you market. See, to me, that's not fair. You choking me out while you save money. So if y'all look now to understand what I'm saying, Wingstop is promoting thighs because chicken thighs are much cheaper. I thought that was genius. It tastes just as good. You're actually getting more chicken. If you don't like brown meat, oh, well, you still might try it because they're promoting it. And that's how you survive these times. See what I'm saying? So that's an important piece of franchising that comes in the next level. Once you get your foot in the door, now you got to start looking at, okay, how are they buying their products? Where are they sourcing them? And if they save money, do they pass that savings on to me?
Very important. And just to add to that, Fox, so that move alone tells you that they are pivoting with the times, right? So they're
Definitely.
like, they're good on flexing when they need to make sure that the sales still come in. And that's super important because you got companies that won't necessarily do that. They'll just be like, you know what? That's the price. You guys pay for it and keep it moving, right?
Yeah, it's all about leadership. It's leadership in the country. If you remember, I don't want to date myself here, but I got to, maybe 10 years ago, maybe even 20, Quiznos came into the sandwich space and had Subway on the run because they had toasted subs.
Mm-hmm.
Every Subway in America right now has a toaster oven because of Quiznos. But what happened is an overzealous franchisee, someone who was so in love with the brand of Quiznos, actually bought the company. And he did not have the vision of the originator. And he literally ran it into the ground. Like Quiznos really doesn't exist. There's some locations left, but they have no weight in the marketplace. Someone who was set to take over a market literally lost it and it went down the drain because they didn't have the right leadership. So leadership is important as well.
Wow. There we have it. Leadership, hustle, sweat equity, all of these things are necessary to run any business, really, especially in this industry. So Fox, let us know, how can people contact you? How can they become part of your community, follow you?
All right.
Let us know.
Hey, listen, I appreciate y'all. It all starts with this: 773-232-3332. That's my number. So if you need credit repair, you need business credit, you need mentorship on anything, franchise related, financing, real estate, that's where you start. You text that number. My staff will get back to you, set a consultation. And once you text that number, you become part of my community and you get links to all different types of information that's valuable to, young entrepreneurs.
I want to add to that, text Dinero Twins to that number. So you know that we sent them your way.
There you go. Hashtag Dinero Twins. That's it. This way I know where it came from.
We'll also add it on the comments, guys. So it'll be, on the description. So for anyone on YouTube, it'll be added on the description. We'll add Fox's Instagram pages as well so that you guys stay connected.
Cool.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for this conversation, Fox. I hope it's not the last, right? The first of many.
Yes.
And for those of you that are watching us, continue to watch our episodes. We're going to have a lot of heat coming up, so you don't want to miss it. Don't forget to subscribe.
Absolutely. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you again, Foxito.
Listen, ladies, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me.
All right. Ciao, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you found great value in the content shared. Make sure to tune in again every Wednesday and to also share our podcast link with anyone who can benefit from the information. Till next time, adios.